Good morning. I thought I would talk about something in the spiritual path that I call cliff falling, skydiving, base jumping. Have you ever experienced where you have done a lot of reading and taken maybe courses and maybe even gone to healers and counselors and stuff, and you've done all of this work, and yet you can't seem to break out of the old patterns? You know, you've come a long way, I'm sure, and then you kind of plateau, and it's like no matter what you do, you can't seem to get that next step up. Well, when we hit those plateaus, those kind of stuck places, there are three ways that we can go forward. There are three methods basically that will boost us up to the next level. And they're kind of extreme, because up until this point, your ego has been dismantling itself in a way. Up until this point, you've been doing the work with your conscious mind and making the changes in your life and in yourself and that sort of thing. But there comes a point where you can't do that anymore. There comes a point where the very essence of your ego is at risk. If you were to make the new changes that you want to make, you would no longer recognize yourself as you. You would no longer be the I that you know and are comfortable with. And that's where it bogs down, because as they say, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. You can't use the ego to dismantle the ego. It absolutely won't work. The ego will do everything in its power to let you think that that's what you're actually doing and that you're making headway, and all you need is to read one more book or take one more course, or find the one particular secret that's going to make it happen. But the reality is that your ego cannot dismantle itself. So it takes something so dramatic that it basically knocks you out of your ego, and you are forced to find a new way of being. And that's what I call the three options: cliff diving, or cliff falling, skydiving, or base jumping. So what does that mean? Cliff falling is when you are not making progress and you are just not evolving to the level that you need to, and life comes along and just boots your butt right over the edge, and you are falling like free fall. You have no control. Everything that you thought you were and everything you thought life was has just broken apart into a million shards, and you have no idea where to even stand or how to go from here or how to cope with the situation. Like, you are right out of your comfort zone. You're not like pushing the envelope, you've broken it wide open. But the key is in this one is that you haven't actually done it consciously. I mean, your higher self has probably, got the boot on, but you have not consciously decided to blow up your life. Your life just blew up seemingly on its own, and you're left to pick up the pieces. That doesn't sound like fun, and it's not fun. And at the same time, at the other end of that crisis, you are reborn, and you are more of the you that you can be than you were when you were just coasting, than you could have ever been while you were just coasting through life, not really challenging yourself, not really making the changes, not really living up to your full potential. So that's number one. Life just does it for you. And sooner or later, if we don't do it ourselves, life is going to do it for us. The second option is skydiving, and that is where you put yourself voluntarily in a situation so far over your head that you have no choice but to break out of all of your old patterns and ways of being and ways of seeing yourself and of thinking of who you are. You just put yourself right on the edge, and then you leap into something that you have no idea how it's going to turn out. You're going on faith, and you're flying. So that's the sort of situation where there are different ways of doing this. There's a lot of ways of doing this. But I can guarantee that whatever way it is, it scares the pants off you. It feels like impossible. There's no way you can do it. And yet you do it anyway. So to give you an example of the first one, cliff falling, from my own experience, when I was 23, I think, 24, just on the cusp there, I think, I woke up one morning and my sister-in-law / best friend / co-worker / housemate, like this woman who was entirely central in my life and in my heart, was dead. I woke up and she was gone. And she was like 22, I think, or 21 at the time. And it broke my entire world apart. I thought I knew what I was doing. I was working real hard. I was putting in extra hours. I wasn't taking vacations. I was banking the money. I was, really on that track. And that just broke my whole world open. And I looked at myself and I thought, who am I? And what am I doing? And what's even the point of this life if this is how it works? Like if, you can, on a dime, lose everything. Or, even lose your life with no warning, no evident cause or reason. And that launched me on my spiritual journey and my path of awakening. The second version, skydiving, I have done a number of times, mostly in putting myself into meditative practices like a 10-day Vipassana workshop. I remember the first time I went to the 10-day Vipassana workshop and I was so excited about it. And then when I got there, and the first night we had dinner and then they did an orientation. And I remember thinking as they were talking, not for any reason that they were actually saying, but I just started to clue in to what was coming on some level. And I started to feel like I was, I've thrown myself in the deep end here. And then it went on a little farther and I thought, okay, I'm in way over my head here. And then it went on a little farther and I thought, okay, I'm like, I just dumped myself out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And it was like that. It was way beyond the ability of what I could do, physically, emotionally. It was really out there. And I did it again when I went to the ashram, and I stayed at the ashram for 9 months. 9 months. And I'll tell you that virtually the entire time, I was there saying to myself, I will stay one more day. I can do one more day. And then I'm going to go home. And I did that for 9 months. And I finally only went home when I got to the point where I knew that I could stay. And I didn't have to do that. It wasn't as overwhelmingly challenging and impossible anymore. So those are examples of skydiving. And I'd like to say that, when you're skydiving, you do have an option because it's voluntary. You're up there, you're in the plane, you're standing at the door, the wind is blasting past you. There's nothing but you and gravity from a couple of miles down. And you're standing there holding onto the edge with your toes hanging over, leaning out, going, am I going to jump? And you can back down in one way or another. I saw people go through the ashram and come out unchanged, virtually unchanged. And it was because they didn't fully dive in to the work. They were there, but they kept making it easy for themselves, however they could, and they didn't get the transformation. So that's what I mean about, you don't actually have to jump out of the plane. So the third method is base jumping, which really I think of as using your daily life as your launching pad for spirit, continuing to kind of rip out your safety nets and your comfort zones and your beliefs about yourself and your expectations about life. Just continuing to take them and throw them away, which, always makes me think of the goddess Akhilandishvari, the goddess never not broken. And if you don't know about her, take a look at my website because I've got a few articles on her and she's really hard to find anything about. But she's amazing. And one of the things that she does is continually breaks herself open so that the divine can shine through. We do these changes and then we allow ourselves to kind of crust up again, form a solid boundary of who we are now, who we think we are now. And then we get stuck at that level. And Akhilandishvari is the goddess of never doing that, of continuing to break open on purpose. So that's really the whole point of this practice is if you want the evolution, if you want the transformation beyond that level where you kind of get stuck, where your ego can't dismantle itself, you've got to really just rip away the ground under your feet. You've got to put yourself in a situation that feels impossible. And it may not be really dramatic. Like Kyle Cease, I remember his story about doing this sort of thing in his own perspective. Like he wasn't thinking of it in this way entirely, maybe, but he decided that he was going to rent the Dolby Theatre for his next event, which was a huge cash outlay and leap of faith and leap forward in how many so sorry about that. It's a huge leap forward in his level of attendance at his events as well. And it was really scary. And what he said was, it proved to himself that he wasn't his money because he gave all of his money to the Dolby Theatre to book it. And that's that kind of, you're ripping away the security blanket, the security net, the safety net. And that's the whole point, is if it doesn't scare the pants off of you, if it doesn't feel like you can't possibly do it, then it's not going to take you to the next level. because anything you can do, anything that seems already possible, is something that's already within the comfort zone and the level of functioning that you have. So, yeah, it's like taking that deep breath and just leaping. And I mean, you're not going to, I hope, do something crazy, or a lot of people might say it's crazy, but I mean, like, actually put yourself in physical risk or something. But, see if you can't find something in your life that is so far beyond who you think you are, who you think of yourself as, and seeming like you don't even know if you can do it or survive it or whatever, and then do that thing. Can you imagine how that can take you to the next level, how that can bring you to a whole new level of who you are and what you can do? I've done that in taking on jobs that I thought were entirely out of my skill set. There are so many ways you can do this. And whatever it is that you feel less like you can do, that's the one for you probably. And whichever one feels like you don't know who you would be at the other end of that, or if you didn't do that thing anymore, that's probably it. And then watch for how the ego immediately slides in and starts telling you why you can't do that. Oh, but I've made this commitment. Oh, but yeah, you know what? That one doesn't really scare me. I think that would be okay. Or the ego knows all our tricks and all our buttons. So watch for that. And yeah, I mean, you may not be at the point yet where you're ready to jump or where you need to jump. But this is something to be aware of for when you get to that point. Now you'll know. It's your choice how you want to go forward. And whether you want to wait for the universe to boot you or, take yourself up in that airplane and do it in a controlled way. Basically, you've got a system. There's a system that supports you. There's a teacher that supports you. There's whatever it is you need. You're not jumping out without a parachute. You've got the parachute. So, okay, I think I've taken this analogy far enough for today, and we're over time. So I will wish you the best of the day, and I hope that you can find some places in your life where where you can find what your skydiving could be, and the courage and passion for your own evolution to take that leap. So with that, I will chat with you again tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Blessed be.